Welcome to Timber&Terra. I am Glenn, and it's raining. We've had about 1.5 inches of rain with some snow that was on the ground. So we have the runoff from the rain as well as the runoff from the melting snow. I've done several projects in the last year that involve drainage, and it's a great time to check out how that's working. In fact, the most recent one I did was a video I published, I think just maybe a month before this one I'm doing, where I extended my firewood processing area. So I extended it from basically where the firewood table is to where the existing, to the end of the gravel there is now where the stake is. And the problem I had before was sort of like it is now. The rain was sheeting sort of off the gravel area back onto the field. I did make an improvement because it was running down this road and almost all this water was running into there. So I've made an improvement that way. Well, we do have a lot of this water running down here into the swale that I made and then into the road. But I still have a fair amount running down here. But I don't want to bring this up anymore because it's already a little bit higher than where the wood is stacked over there. So what I'm going to have to do in the summertime is actually create a little bit of a grass swale here so the water will run beside the gravel pad and not through it or over it. So now let's head back into the woods where I did a woods road about a year ago. It was last November, December of 2022 that I put this road in the woods, and it had 3 culverts. So now's a good chance to see where the water's going there and what modifications I might need to make this coming summer. Well, before we can even get there, this is I think this is a 10-inch culvert. Small culvert because normally we don't get this much water at one time running across this road. Basically this road is through the field, almost to the second field in the back. There's where we just were over there. But what's happening is the water's not all going through the culvert, and the water level is rising up enough to actually go over the road, which is not a big deal for this road. I'm fine with that. It's just washing over gravel. I've never had a washout. I doubt I'm going to now. Again, this is just sort of a road in the field. It's not a driveway. Almost always it's only used for tractors and maybe a four-wheeler. That's about it. I had cut these within the last month or so. Until recently they were all buried in snow. My hope is, right now, we're supposed to get some rain today, tomorrow. It's going to be about a week, which is very rare this time of year in mid-December, late December, to have a stretch that long of no precipitation. But we'll have about a week with no rain or snow, significant anyhow. What I'm hoping is things will freeze up. The weather will get cold enough where the ground will freeze before we get any more meaningful snow, because that makes for good winter conditions to be out here and not worry about churning up mud. Some more logs that had been buried in the snow. In order to get those, I need to come out here with my trailer, and if I did that now with the thawed ground, I don't think it would be pretty. This is just a little area where I put a 6-inch culvert just to go across the field. This had been really muddy. So it has that culvert, has some gravel on top. Again, the 6-inch culvert is not enough to take care of the volume of water we have now, but that little bit of water sheeting over the top is not a big deal. I have another one down here where these stakes are. So these stakes are really just so when we do have a significant snow cover, and I have no other way of identifying where the road is, so I can stay between the culvert ends on the road, the stakes will give me that guidance. Not too bad here. Here's the inlet to the culvert. Culvert's a 6-inch pipe. It's really not a culvert. And then the water coming out. But it's doing what it needs to do. It basically lifts me up so I don't need to go through what would be really soft mud in the field here. So this field, for the most part, there is some muddy areas down here. I'm not going to show you that, but for the most part this field is easily passable year-round, in the spring, winter, summer, without any issue with the road conditions on this little bit of road through the field. So as far as the temperature goes, I mentioned sort of the forecast for this week here in northern Vermont. It does show that it's supposed to sort of maintain itself for the most part in the 20s for the next 5 to 7 days, and then slight warm up. You know, highs during the day will get to the low to mid 30s, but at night go down close to 20. Ideally, with it most of the snow gone now, it'd be nice if we had a stretch of sub-zero weather to really get the frost in the ground, you know, 6 to 12 inches, but yeah, it doesn't look to be in the cards this time around. So here with the field runoff, I do have a little bit of water running down the road here. This has washed out a little bit before. The last time I fixed that, I put what we call, locally it's called dense grade, which is like a 6-inch minus, 4-inch minus crushed rock with all the fines. There's a fair amount of rock dust, so it packs really well. It's very dense, that's why they call it dense grade. And it's used quite often for applications that are subject to erosion. And so far it's held up well. Now as I'm coming down here to my corner, it doesn't look so good. So this is a corner where I can go down to the pond to the right, and then the rest of the wood lot up there to the left. Oh boy. So this area here is sort of a swamp, marshy area. There's almost always water that runs actually underneath where we are here through rocks, and down there where you can see it. When I first put this road in, for the most part the water would run through these rocks that are sort of natural. They've always been here. I just put road fabric on top with gravel and went on top. I did have some washouts like this. So what I did, you can't really see it because it's covered with water, but I made a little trench from that area there over here with a 15-inch culvert. So buried underneath that water is a 15-inch culvert. And for the most part, that takes any additional water that doesn't make it through that natural rock culvert and easily just takes it down through the ditch. So that is a 15-inch culvert, basically at max capacity. I mean, on the outlet side it's only about half to 3/4 full, but on the inlet side it's buried. Probably buried by 6 or 8 inches of water. And a fair amount of water coming down my road. So the other good thing about having frozen ground during the winter time and into the spring is that it won't really erode. I don't really think I had much in the way of frost, so I don't have that advantage. We'll just see how much damage is done. I don't know if there's a culvert here. So in fact, the way I made this ditch is actually working the way I wanted it to. Although I didn't plan on that. So there's a culvert here that goes across and dumps as much of the water as it can over there, and it'll meet up with an existing stream. Normally there's nothing that would go beyond here, but in the case now where we have a lot of runoff, it's actually sort of overflowing, but just going down the ditch to the next culvert. So this is the next culvert, culvert number 2 on this little descend to the pond. And for the most part, this is doing what it normally does. The water will go in here and nothing will go beyond it. There's just a trickle of water going beyond this culvert. And that's bubbling up over there. But what that does, there's relatively little water running down the road here. Before I put this ditch in, all this would come down the road and it would wash it out. And it happened a couple times before I finally smartened up. So some of this is from excess that didn't go into that culvert. I think the bulk of this, what you see here, is just kind of runoff from the surface coming down that hill. And then this is the last culvert before we hit the pond. And there's just a little bit of water going in there and out there. And to the pond we head. So this is my ford crossing. It's pretty wide now. Normally that crossing, instead of being probably the better part of 20 or 25 feet there now, normally it's only like 4 to 6 feet wide. See, hopefully you can see through the water there. There is a little bit of washout. I had just repaired the same area from flooding that we had here in Vermont in July. I did put some bigger stone. This is riprap, like 8 or 10 inch minus. And that seems to be holding up well, but I'll have more work to do. Hopefully I can make it across here without getting swept downstream. I can actually see the bottom. In a case like this, it was my forester that recommended a ford crossing for this woods road rather than culverts. And in this instance here, I'm glad I have it. I'm thinking culverts, they're going to be overwhelmed. It would wash over top of it, wash through them. It would just take all the gravel out away from it. But the gravel underneath that road has, except for that little area there that I pointed out, has really maintained itself quite well. There is fabric underneath that surface gravel that probably helps keep things together. So this road here to the left is the road that I made about a year ago, and it has 3 culverts in it. Some of this I knew was going to run down the road, so this is what we're walking through now is sort of expected. Because I don't know if I have a solution for this. I'm trying to figure out. See, it's shedding from this entire area here. Really, my only option would be to dig a ditch and then shoot it off that way into the brook. But and from here down, it goes downhill, so I'd have to... I really don't have a good option down there. There's just too much width of road to realistically put a culvert in without doing a lot of work. And I have some trees here that I don't really want to dig the roots up. Well, I do have some washout here because you can see my fabric. This is just clay that I brought in from the road that I built this summer that we'll look at here in a bit. That'll be interesting. So I don't think most of this I'm going to be able to do much about from here down. So the runoff here, and you can see the little green thing sticking up from the ground, is the culvert. So this is taking a fair amount of flow. These are 12-inch, I think they're 12-inch culverts. It's a little bit of a river, but normally that's just a dry surface, not a riverbed. But one thing I do need to fix, which is going to be relatively simple, is to drain that water there that's going across the road. Right here I can easily take that little tree out and and finish the ditch to have it drain into that culvert. So there's the outflow of that 12-inch culvert. A little bit of runoff here, a little bit of washout. This is actually abnormal. In fact, judging from just the culverts driving up to my house from work today, I would say it's every bit of the flood that we had in July. So I don't know if all parts of the state are getting it as bad as we are. I think they are, maybe worse. There's actually not nearly as much flow here in this one as I thought there would be. Right there is the inlet and the outlet. And this is the third culvert on this little road. Call it a cul-de-sac or loop road. A fair amount of runoff there. In the description, I will put a link to a playlist. I can't remember how many videos. I think maybe 4 videos to build this road. Not all of them included putting in culverts. I'm thinking maybe 2 of them involved putting in culverts. So if you're interested in seeing this road being put in a year ago, that link is in the description. So now we'll head back out of the woods into the field where I made a road in the field. This is going to be more of a driveway, a road for vehicles, not just a road in the field for tractors that we walked in by. So it's just about sunset, maybe after sunset, so hopefully I can, it looks black now on the screen, hopefully I can light it up in the editing. I was able to lighten this up a little bit in editing, but it does not get any better than this. I did shoot the same areas a couple days later in full sunlight. But this first culvert we're going to look at is an 18-inch culvert. It just takes field runoff, which includes the rain and the snow. And you can see it sheeting across the field here. Sort of concentrates itself here into what I called in the video when I was making it the pizza-shaped inlet triangle. It's wide up here with the rocks and then narrows down. So that 18-inch culvert looks fine. I do have a playlist where I built this road. It's not done yet, so you can see the piles of sod, topsoil on each side. I think there's actually 10 videos. Again, there's probably just 2 or 3, maybe 3, one for each culvert. I see a little bit of washout here. I have a bunch of rocks there, so that's sort of saving that ground from washing out. That's the importance of a dissipator pad, or just rocks on the outlet, whatever you want to call it. So this is just a clay bed. I've not put gravel on top yet, but it's nice and firm. And with the good ditch, hopefully there is never enough runoff here to wash it out. So that was the first culvert as we head towards the town road here. The first one is 18-inch. These second 2 are 15-inch. They don't get as much runoff, field runoff. You can see there's no sheeting water here, but there's significant flow, but not overwhelming at all. Same thing on the outlet side. There's a rock dissipator pad, but it sort of puddles there before it runs off into the swamp. So this ditch here has a little bit more runoff of the field. You can see there's some water channeling there. So that's topsoil. I was able to spread this little bit of topsoil so it's ready to be smoothed out and seeded, but from here back I have not had a chance to do that, and I won't probably until May at the earliest. See, this is a bit of an issue where the ditch is shallow, or some sod fell down, topsoil fell down and sort of filled the ditch, which allows it to run off into the road a little bit. Assuming the worst of our rain is done with, all in all, that's not too bad. That channeling there will be taken care of when there's grass. Right now there's not, obviously. So this is a problem. It's the fabric, which was exposed before, but here the road's just not high enough. The ditch, I'm not going to go any more deeper in the ditch here. This section of ditch where it's rock lined, I can probably help divert it over that way a bit more, but it can't be running into the road like this. That's a no-no. So most of this into this culvert comes from the road and a little bit from my driveway. This is a 24-inch culvert. I put it in, but the size was dictated by the town. And yeah, just washed out a little bit of the road, so that's not good. You can see it sort of sheets off there once it gets out of the ditch and then goes into the swamp. Well, it is a brisk morning, about 19 degrees. This is about a day and a half after we had that flood. So it did start to cool down yesterday during the day. A little bit of snow, sort of to end the storm as it left the area. So I thought we could look at the aftermath of what we have to deal with, you know, what the damage was, which I don't think is going to be much, but there's some minimal damage. So this is the firewood area. Yesterday this was all dry, so there was no puddles, no washouts, nothing, even though we had a little bit of water running across it, but it's in good shape. So I don't think there's much to look at in the field, so we'll just meet up again in the woods. So this is the corner that had a sheet of water running across it earlier. Things have calmed down substantially. So this is the outflow of that sort of natural rock culvert that runs basically where I'm showing now, draining that swampy area. So there was a little bit of washout. You can see the bigger rocks, because they're all covered with snow, but the bigger rocks on some of the 1.5 inches. So the fines, some of the smaller stones have washed off over there, but not much. I don't even think it's as bad as it was in July. But now that the water's not here, I can show you what the drainage plan was for here. So normally that water is running just below the rocks, so you can't see it, but it's running below the rocks underneath the road and out there. When we have a rainstorm of any significance, then water will start to run down this trough here that I made, and then through the 15-inch culvert and to the other side of the road. So right now this culvert is not taking any water from that direction. It's only taking water from this side of the corner. So on the outflow side of the 15-inch culvert, there's not much, really, just a trickle. It's amazing how things dried up so quickly after the rain stopped. This is Wednesday morning. We were here Monday evening, late afternoon. You can notice here a little bit of washout where the rocks are showing. It's not, the snow's not as smooth there as it is back there, because some of the fines have gone away. A little bit of washout here, but not too bad. So this is normal, where all the runoff from that culvert, as well as any from the forest floor, is running easily through this culvert and over there. When we were here last, this was at capacity, and it was running, the water was running where the dog is, continuing down to the next culverts. So these ditches for the most part will be relatively dry, or maybe a trickle of water. Second culvert has barely a trickle, which is normal, and the third culvert down here has almost no flow normally. In fact, quite often it's absolutely dry. Now there's just a little bit of water running. and then off into the puddle. Again, something else my forester had suggested, and as part of the acceptable management practices, AMPs, for the state of Vermont, and I would assume for most states, is that when you have a culvert outflow like this in a forest setting, it's nice to have a little bit of a retention area where the water can settle out before it runs off, and that's primarily for silt control, which is the big concern with water management in most state plans, is to minimize silt, fine sand running downstream and causing difficulties with wildlife and other natural habitat. So this is the more typical flow that we see here. It's about maybe a 5, could be 6 foot wide sheet of water running across the road, easily passable, just like we walked through it last time with a tractor by foot. This is the little bit of washout I had, some road fabric, but I had put quite a bit of this stone in here, which is still there. I had topped it off with some gravel. Some of that is gone, and down there I had actually put some clay fill from my road, and I think that's all. Some of it might be there to the left. I'm not sure how much of that to the left was there already, what I added. I put the thin ice sign back up that had been washed down into the rocks there. So that's here. We do have neighbors, some that I know, and I saw some on game cameras that I don't know, that use this either for snowshoeing or for cross-country skiing, so we thought it was a good idea just to warn them that there's going to be thin ice there because the water runs. In the center of the pond, the ice would be plenty thick enough if someone wanted to walk on it later, but here on the edge it's always going to be thin. So this was the area where we were looking at stuff in the dark. This is the 18-inch culvert, the bigger one, that takes the majority of the surface runoff from the field and some of the woods back there. Just a trickle in there now compared to what it was a couple days ago. And just a trickle coming out. You can see a little bit of wash out here, a bit better, but that'll be easy to fix. You can see here the ditch to the right, the surface is frozen over, but there's still a little bit of trickle of water underneath. Again, just a trickle of slightly muddy water. I think most of it is coming from up there. It just literally drips coming from the surface of the field. And this is the last culvert, again heading from the end of the field towards the town road. So there's almost nothing going in there. So this is the first trouble spot that we saw where the ditch, I think I just got too much of the sod over in the ditch, and it actually allowed it to head over that way a bit. You can see some of the channels that the runoff made. So I'll just dig this out by hand to hopefully force that away instead. I think that'll help that little area. That wasn't much of anything anyhow. Still a little bit of water running there, and you can tell there, if fact, it might even still be running into the road a little bit. So let me redirect this over to where they're rock lined ditches. This will be a little bit more work. Well, hopefully we don't have another event like we just had. For normal flow, this should work fine. Obviously, I'll have to think a bit more about this come summer when I finish off the road. I'll probably just bring the level of the road up a bit more than I would have otherwise done that, knowing this is a potential issue. So that area that I just dug out and this little channel here was enough to lead to this washout here. Probably about 6 to 8 inches deep there, just along the edge of the town road. So what I think I'll do, I did try to start my excavator. No bueno. So I think I'll take just my tractor with a bucket and see if I can push some of this road dirt, which I'm guessing was just sort of pushed with the snowplow, and fill that in with there, at least enough so it wouldn't cause any issue if someone was to drive in there. So that'll wrap it up for this video. I appreciate you following along and watching this video. Thank you very much.